I'm very excited to be here today. It's a great day for digital, and it's a great day for you as our customers, because it's a very unique point in, I think, the heritage of digital realty and what's been brought to market. And you're really starting to see the finite details, metrics that are tailor suited to your needs and providing that value back to your customer. And one of the things that I've always looked at for some time now, and having been here almost 5 years now, it's amazing at the heritage that exists within not only digital, but the broader portfolio of companies. And most recently, last week, we announced another one, which it just further expands the value that we can drive back to you as the customer. And one of the things that I'm going to walk through here today is I'm just going to walk you through a little bit of our vision and more importantly, our roadmap on what we're doing today and where we're going tomorrow, but just really start to tie together how you can benefit from the work that we've been doing 15 plus years. And so the team that's behind this, the presentations today, behind Digital Realty, I mean, it is some of the best people I've ever been able to work with in the industry. And hopefully that translates to the customer support, the work that we're able to do for you, and the end result of all the systems that we get to experience today. And one of the things that I often touch upon is the data center is such a critical component of everybody's infrastructure coming to market. And that's something that I think is often overlooked, and I'll go through some highlights here, but the data center is becoming increasingly important, as you've heard from some of our keynote speakers today. But I'd like to particularly say thank you to both David and Kelly and some of the work that they walked through. So please, another round of applause for Kelly and David. No, it's just to recap a little bit of it, as David walked through, you're going to have to build centers of data. And just think about that. No longer is it the application is able to be deployed everywhere. It's the data that has the gravity or has that control of what you're able to achieve. And so you'll see in a second here, I'll go through a little bit more detail around what we mean by data gravity. But essentially 70% of the data is going to be generated outside of the cloud and legacy data centers. Just think about that, 70%. Some of these metrics, you can't overcome that. You can't overcome that with a traditional IT architecture. You can't overcome that with traditional types of infrastructure that you have today. And then as Kelly just touched upon, supporting a growing number of locations. There's more and more locations that you have to start to support in a very efficient, a very pervasive way. And so again, you have to optimize those data exchanges and really start to look at how you're going to connect that infrastructure to the data. So one of the great things at Digital Realty that I spend a lot of time on and I often get asked is the heritage that exists within this company. And people get hung up on some of the, oh, it's a real estate company, or, oh, you're missing out on X, Y, and Z. The culmination of it all is what allows us to the ability to deliver infrastructure that nobody has seen before, that nobody has really even brought to market before. And I often speak about one building in Ashburn, Virginia. It's 100 megawatts roughly in that one building. That's hyperscale. That's a pervasive deployment that the amount of infrastructure to being deployed in that one building is just tremendous. And another stat that I think people often overlook is the fact that we have 1.21 gigawatts of infrastructure under management today. Think about that. That's 850,000 homes that can be powered with that, or one flex capacitor. So again, the world is dynamic. The enterprise is coming to market, the hyperscales are coming to market. The core of what digital does is remove the friction between those two elements. That's the most simplistic way I can reference it to you. And we'll go in a little bit of detail of how we're removing that friction from your business, if you're a seller or you're a buyer, and in most cases you're both. It's a heavily, heavily interconnected world. So what is happening in this digital transformation? You've heard about it all throughout all the talks today. It's impacting all of us quickly. And the pace at which it's impacting us is increasing. And it's across all industries. It's creating new business models. It's creating new markets. You have to have new capabilities to be viable within those markets. And if you're not efficient, I bet your competitors are. And you have to really slow down in the beginning to think through what is viable and valuable to you and start to pick and choose who your partners are, because I guarantee you at the end of the day, if you do it correctly, it'll be a competitive advantage to your business. So with that, the demand of the new business architecture. These architectures, you have to adapt quickly, and you have to adapt efficiently. The ubiquitous nature of what you need to be delivered, the real-time nature of all of our applications, the intelligence required out of your infrastructure, out of your customers, which translates to this omni-channel. Just even the word, when you think about it, these omni-channels of impact of data and where customers are and the statistics we're pulling out of the infrastructure, it's very demanding. It's very, 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 very complicated. We often get asked by many customers that feel overwhelmed. They just keep asking us, but how do I achieve this? It requires a new IT architecture. That new IT architecture is something that means different things to every person in this room, coming from different types of enterprise sectors, different types of service providers. You have to have a new architecture to really start to think through what is a priority to your business and how you can really differentiate yourself from a lot of your competitive groups out there. So what needs to be in that IT architecture? You have to be decentralized. And the decentralization is not an easy thing to achieve. But when you start to decentralize, you still have to stay interconnected. The interconnection is a core element. It's becoming more and more aware to a broader group of people, but you really need to think through what you need to interconnect to, how you're going to interconnect. And tailored. It has to be tailored. It has to be global and local. It's not easy to do that. And that's why identifying the right partners that can help you do that in a repeatable fashion is absolutely paramount. And ecosystems, or communities of interest. It's absolutely one of the longest conversations I have with customers is some of them say, hey, I don't really have an ecosystem. And I guarantee you when we leave the room, we've identified at least 15 to 20 partners that are an ecosystem to them. But most people get it. They get that they need this SaaS application or this storage or whatever it may be. They get that there's an ecosystem that they need to enable or be enabled by in a very differentiated manner. It's a major, major challenge for all of us to achieve. It's a lot of complexity inside of it. One more element, data gravity. We referenced a little bit earlier today that Kelly was talking through that private cloud interconnectivity is table stakes. I agree. I wish more people understood the definition of that private interconnectivity, but this element right here, data gravity, the term was coined a while back from one of our friends, Dave McCrory at VMware. Essentially what it is at the highest level is that your applications, the further they're away from the data, increase latency. What's that latency do? It amounts to more and more inefficiencies, less throughput. It's impacting your customers. So you have to move the applications closer to the data. The next critical element is density limits movement. What that means is the heavier the data gets, the deeper the data gets, you can't move it easily. It becomes a problem. And so that one building I referenced in Ashburn, Virginia, that's 100 megawatts, do you think there's some density of data in there? Absolutely. And we joke, and I often get made fun of, there's data lakes, that's our data ocean. And it's absolutely paramount. And we heard some of the speakers today talking about their AI and how their AI is building its own neural network and it's looking at things and trying to build its own videos. What it's really doing is getting closer to data sets and really starting to get educated by those data sets. So do you think you deploy that AI far away from the data, or do you immerse it in the center of the data? And I guarantee you that AI deployment that the BBC brought to market, it had extreme power density and high throughput requirements. All these new AI processors that are coming to market require a different type of design. And I'm very proud to talk to you about how we've really spent the last 15 plus years at Digital, not only with the team that's inside of Digital for 15 years, but through all the acquisitions, that we have one of the most pervasive, variable data center designs in the world today. 100 watt per foot to 300, seamlessly. So we can future-proof your deployment. So then what do you do with this density? The data density is not going to exist in one market. It's going to start to exist in global markets. So it needs many centers of data. And a lot of the times, the actual physical permutation of this data doesn't fit within colo. It doesn't fit within a single environment. So being able to have the ability to tailor fit our infrastructure to your needs, where you can go into a colo or you can go into a more scale facility, we can meet that demand on a global basis. So the core thing that my team and the broader teams at Digital are constantly looking at is, how do we remove complexity from this very, very complicated challenge? And this is how. And I'm very excited to talk about our pervasive data center architecture. This is something that absolutely is paramount to, I would say, almost every customer in this room would get the benefit out of being able to leverage this architecture. And they're able to not only solve for data gravity with replicating their infrastructure in all the core markets in a very repeatable, a very seamless fashion into the fit-for-purpose product that's all heavily interconnected. But it's really starting to drilling down into the fact that you're enabling a distributed workflow at a scale that's never been seen before. So when you sit down and you start to think through what are my application requirements, what are my workload requirements, you have to really start to think through, how do I replicate, what can I do to benefit from the pervasive data center architecture? It's a critical element that we're happy to talk to you about today. In some of the sessions later today, we'll get into the details around some of the use cases. And I do impress upon you, please take the time to listen to the metrics that we're going to be able to represent to you today on customers that have truly, truly differentiated their architecture, which translates into a competitive advantage, not only financially. So what are the 4 steps from removing complexity? And we really thought through this, and these are the repeatable 4 steps that we've looked at. It's planning the zones, understanding where you have an infrastructure requirement, or where you have customers, or where you have eyeballs that you have to deliver content. Understanding how to plan those zones is absolutely critical. Identifying the participants. Who are the users of the application? What are the broader applications that you need to use to provide that data? How do you map your workloads? There's lots of performance attributes inside of these workloads that you have to think through. And lastly, you deploy the footprints. And deploying those footprints in a fit-for-purpose product offering that we bring to market, it's not replicated anywhere else in the world. Being able to go in and say, listen, I have a 100 kilowatt requirement today, and I need to go to 500, I need to go to a megawatt, I need to go to hundreds of megawatts, we can do that. We can show you how to future-proof that deployment to be able to land and expand. So these distributed workflows are then able to be brought together in these centers of data exchanges. And that's what you have to start to think through, is the data is probably one of the most valuable assets to any business in here, even ours. Data is absolutely paramount. What you do with the data, how you access the data, where the data resides, how you grow the data, it's absolutely should be at the forefront of everything that we think about when we start to do these new IT architectural designs. Again, only Digital Realty can address this. We're one of the few that have one of the most pervasive data center architectures out there. And pervasive at the highest level, it's not just reach from a geography, it's also density, it's also interconnectivity, it's also the right product offering. Pervasiveness is absolutely paramount to us. The global coverage is absolutely critical. Being able to have a repeatable access to multiple massive economic centers around the globe, the interconnected ecosystems. We're one of the largest interconnected ecosystems in the world. We run an open platform. It's very rare. We're always on. The amount of teams that exist within digital that do nothing but think about how to keep it 24/7, how to keep it safe, how to make it efficient through any kind of storm or natural impact, some of the best teams in the world. So the fit for purpose, again, it's not just the infrastructure, but it's also the interconnection. We have one of the most versatile sets of product in the world, from colo, scale, to exascale, and even beyond. I'll talk about that here in a second. But interconnection is something that I think it's a great term, but the devil's in the detail. We have one of the most pervasive interconnection portfolios in the world. We'll go from a simple cross-connect to a metro connect. We'll interconnect you globally. We'll also do the SDN enablement via our service exchange. That pervasiveness of that interconnectivity does nothing but empower your business. It allows you to differentiate and truly pull in what we see as being a competitive advantage for you. And mission critical is everything. I've never been in a meeting in my career, particularly on the tech sector, where somebody was like, if it goes down a couple hours, I don't worry about it. Nobody said that. The answer, again, is PlatformDIGITAL. We're very excited about bringing this to market today and the impact that it's going to have and the benefit you all are going to be able to receive through the delivery of a lot of our infrastructure in a very repeatable fashion. So we've standardized our capabilities globally, and the experience across all of the campuses is being normalized. So you're going to be in control, you're going to be connected, and you're going to be optimized. Those three elements is what PlatformDIGITAL is all about. And that empowers you, as much versatility as you need in your business, to really ensure that you can future-proof your design. So the journey of value is something that I think is great, where many of you in this room helped us pull together a lot of the data, a lot of the products, a lot of the details that you've seen throughout the day today. So we've sat down with hundreds of customers, analysts. We've looked at IT deployments. We found 5 common deployment use cases in the market today. Rationalize the portfolio. You want to be able to lower your data center costs. Faster time to deployment. Second element is rewire the network. This is some of the low-hanging fruit that I can't even believe it still exists out there. Rewiring the network. There is so many enterprise customers out there that have an older architecture around their network connectivity model. There is so many advantages inside of looking at how you can rewire your network to reduce latency, increase your throughput, and perform at a multi-cloud level. Implement your hybrid IT controls. Reduce vulnerabilities. Centralize your infrastructure. Centralize your partners. Security first. Again, I touched on this one. Optimize your data exchange. Increase your data performance. Where you place your data is one of the most important decisions you could ever make. And you want to deploy it where the actual data resides. There's a lot of marketing in the industry that I think is a big disservice to a lot of us in this room. The actual interconnectivity hubs, the data doesn't reside there. When you talk about these clouds, the clouds don't reside where the actual network nodes live. The actual workloads are in different locations. So getting closer to where the actual workload is allows you to build one of the most performance, efficient, hybrid IT architectures in the business today. And our partners will talk about it a little bit later today with IBM and the benefits it gives you. So again, interconnecting these global workflows, leverage SDN. It'll accelerate your rollout. You will be happy with the return to effort, and some of the metrics we'll walk through this afternoon are demonstrable. So these valuable outcomes are all for you, and we appreciate you helping shape them and talking to us and sharing with what your challenges are, and we're very proud about bringing a very consistent fashion on how to solve for these going forward. So again, really at the core of what we do is trying to remove complexity from your daily lives and change the way that you think about how you want to leverage data centers in the market today. So we've come down with this, whether there is a solution model that we feel will help you guide through your decision in where you're going to build your data exchange, how you're going to re-architect your IT infrastructure. But essentially what we've talked about here is we're going to bring a network hub to market, where it allows you to rewire that network and get the full benefit of all the new networks that are in the market today. A control hub, allowing this hybrid IT environment for security controls and being able to virtualize a lot of infrastructure. The team from Cisco is here today. Highly advise you to talk to them about some of the work that they're doing about bringing the DMZ to where the data is, to where the network is. The data hubs, optimizing that data exchange is everything. And then again, the service exchange fabric provided by our partners at Megaport is the most pervasive, interconnected fabric in the world. Said differently, it does nothing but drive value to you, our customers. Very rarely will you talk about a cloud or a destination that we can't reach efficiently. So again, enable these centers of data inside of the pervasive data center architecture, or the PDX. That is what PlatformDIGITAL is all about. So the physical implementation of the pervasive data center architecture is around these data exchanges. So being able to provide you PlatformDIGITAL, where you can bring in these individual elements and deploy them in the markets that matter to you most in a very repeatable, efficient fashion, it removes all data gravity barriers, and it allows you to scale in ways that you probably can't even think about today. But innovation has to happen rapidly and quickly, and that's why the culmination of all of the feedback we get from you as customers makes us all greater in the end. You sharing your trials and tribulations, where your barriers are or where you're growing, we collectively always are constantly refining our products to make sure we meet that demand. And this is our roadmap. And it's critical to us. It's critical to you. And that's why I love these types of events and hearing from customers and the particulars around not only what we have on the current, which is the left, but what we're going to be doing in the future. And just walking through them at a high level. The coverage is everything. Bill talked about it this morning with some of the acquisitions we've done, and it's great to be merging with Interaction. Again, our partners there in that coverage, deeper into Europe, deeper into markets that either matter to you today or that can matter to you in the not too distant future. But we're constantly looking at how to bring this platform to market in the most efficient way possible. And connectivity. Connectivity is everything. We constantly look at not only what the speeds and feeds are and where you need to interconnect to and if you're trying to access all these public clouds, but also looking at what are going to be the requirements of a lot of the business exchanges that are happening today, the B2B, and allowing you to monetize your data. These are new business models that you can think about as customers. Who would pay to have access in a differentiated way to the data sets that you possess? Lots of companies are going through that now, and we provide a very simplistic way for them to monetize a new set of their infrastructure. Capacity, the fit-for-purpose product offering is huge. And the heritage to execute it is everything. Deep, deep colo expertise across many, many properties. Deep, extremely deep scale capabilities. With the land banking, with the master planning, the work that we do really allows us to differentiate that capacity. And then lastly, the control. Control is everything. Removing complexity from your daily lives of how you can access our infrastructure is absolutely one of our top goals. And you can see some of the enhanced APIs we're going to be bringing to market. It's a core function for the entire company. And we'll constantly invest in our global portals and APIs and continue to invest in providing you rich, deep, deep ways for you to interconnect to our infrastructure in a very seamless fashion. And I'm very proud to say that it is our heritage that makes all of this possible. So with that, I want to highlight some of the partners we're going to have today. So first and foremost, Cisco. We're going to talk about their secure, agile exchange. Phenomenal product offering. I really, really recommend you sit down and sit through one of the premier thinkers inside of the how do you virtualize the DMZ. Another great partner that we're going to have later today, featuring the IBM Direct Link Cloud. Talk about one of the most unique environments where you can have the most efficient hybrid cloud infrastructure into IBM's environments that's even possible today. One of the other elements I think is great, old is new again. It's a great terminology. The new Z series mainframes. We can talk about some of the new infrastructure that's being come to market. You have to have a very unique design to support these mainframes. They're very heavy. They take a lot of power. You just can't roll it into any traditional data center. And so we'll be talking about blockchain and Watson and some of the AI enablement that they're also doing. Having that efficient supply chain where their public compute is next to your private compute and consuming that in a differentiated way, that's a huge competitive advantage. And lastly, we got our friends from Vapor here today, talking about the edge. And when we talk about the pervasive data center and the pervasive workloads that need to go everywhere, we've partnered with Vapor.io to ensure that we can provide the most consistent solution possible as you start to look out at the edge and look at some of the new spectrums like 5G coming to market. We as Digital, with PlatformDIGITAL, will ensure that your workload will go from the core all the way out to whatever spectrum and whatever endpoint you may need. And so that partnership will highlight the Kinetic Edge and the KEX platform, and we'll talk through the variability of what's happening at the edge to ensure that we are ahead of, as a collective company, your needs on what you're going to see happening at the edge. So with that, I just want to highlight the, at 1 o'clock, Tony Bishop will be walking us through the solution and partner showcase today. So really do want to make sure you make it back in time for that. There's a lot of metrics, there's a lot of deep detail that I think you guys will benefit from. But from 1 to 2 o'clock today, we'll be going through a lot of these different showcases. So with that, I think there is lunch or down there. Or I'm going to hand it back to Sherry. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.